Howdy once again, it's tubalcain, your YouTube shop teacher, and you're watching tips number 445, What Was Petersen Products? Be sure and watch the previous one down here if you have not already, because this is the one that inspired me and my brother to start Petersen Products. Fair warning, this video is strictly talking. I will not be doing anything in the way of shop work. I was a machine shop teacher along with my brother in different schools, of course, and there's a great need by young teachers to find decent projects to make in their shops. And mine in the advanced classes were all revolving around castings, aluminum castings. So this was my early brochure, and at that time I had 9 different projects, all with plaster foundry patterns and instructions, blueprints, everything that a young teacher would have needed to get started in his school shop with various projects. This brochure is about 25 years old, but you recall me talking about the giant micrometer teaching aids that I had. That's me in the classroom with the 2 different projects. And then there I am, my face covered to protect the innocent, also with my giant drill bit teaching aid. I talked about that. Then on the other side of the brochure are all of the different projects, what I just showed you again here, but I'm going to go over these one at a time here, and then I'll show you some other related things just to show you what I was doing in the shop. And then there will also be some footage here that I'll follow up with some of my old projects. I own none of the projects anymore, finished projects, but I have a friend that has a few of them, and we brought them over this morning and took some pictures of them. So let's look at what's in the brochure here. There's a motor base that was used to convert appliance motors into a usable motor for the other projects. There was a C-clamp. That probably was the single most popular one. I sold an awful lot of those. There's the small drill press vise, which will be featured in the next video. I'll be doing some castings with that and talking about 3D printed patterns rather than plaster. There's a description of what this was all about. You can pause your video should you want to read that. By the way, all these projects were also featured and sold through 3 distributors and Mick Engelman, a total of 4. There's the large drill press vise, and I had, it was all black and white photos. There's the original black and white photo. Remember that the jaw and the main body were plaster. They were meant to be sold to the teachers so that they could immediately, before they let the kids touch these delicate patterns, cast them into aluminum patterns and clean them up as needed, and those would be the working patterns, and the plaster patterns thrown away. But they would retain all the rights to do this. That is the large drill press vise you're looking at. There's a bench vise. I don't think I sold many of those, because how useful is an aluminum bench vise? Probably not, but this was the learning operations we were concerned with. There's the band sander, was one of the most popular ones, and I cast up some wheels and put crowns on them in a recent video, so check that out. There's the disc sander, that'll be shown here presently, and the arbor press. And for the advanced students, we had a bandsaw that used the common blade used in a 10-inch Delta bandsaw. So that's my brochure, and I sent tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of those out to schools. There are all 9 or 10 projects, finished projects, pictured on my workbench where I'm standing right now, actually, but a different bench. This would be 30 years ago. That's me sitting at the bench holding the C-clamp. I can't believe how thin I was then, but I worked 12 hours a day for many, many years, a full day at school and then making these plasters at home. Who cares? Here I am sitting down on a stool with 3 items, and here's what they are. This is the original wooden pattern. This is the plaster copy of it, made in a rubber mold. It doesn't show up very well because it's white. And that's the finished project, so it's just showing you the different steps. This is what the teachers would buy. that's what they would make. All of this stuff was thrown away and destroyed by me. In this picture, I can't tell what it was I was making there, but that is a rubber mold with the plaster dripping. What a mess that was, and my fingernails were worn down to nothing from mixing the plaster with my bare hands. Never considered that I should protect my hands, but they're okay. Well, maybe that's why they look so terrible. There I am, and I forgot all about this. Again, there's the finished small drill press vise, which I will be making in the next video. There is the original wooden one. And this is the mold box. I forgot all about this, but there was an aluminum mold with Destaco clamps on each end, and that's the way I made that one. Just a little bit different than the other ones, I guess. I forgot all about that. There I am in my storage area with scores of plaster castings ready to send out, and they had to dry for a week or two before I could ship them. That reduced the weight, and then they developed the full strength, and I was using common molding plaster, sometimes called plaster of Paris. There I am, 2 Pistol Pete. Those are the hacksaw handles, and there's the rubber molds. Here are other rubber molds with the plaster hardening. I usually didn't open them up till the next day. And the rubber was called Black Tuffy. Quite expensive, Black Tuffy. Not sure I showed you this, but there's the rubber mold, my hands with plaster. It was a mess. That was a concrete sink, and I used to bang the whole board. There's an aluminum board under here. Bang it down to get the bubbles out. Bubbles was a problem, always was a problem. I had a 30-inch waist. Now I'm going to cut to the footage in my garage that I created this morning to show you some of the finished projects. There's only 2 or 3 of them. The rest we don't have. Okay, in this section of the video I'm going to show you a few of the Petersen Products finished projects that were made in my video, and through the courtesy of my friend Joe, who I taught with many years, he has brought these over to my garage here so that I can film them and talk real briefly about them. But first of all, let me say something about a couple of projects here. They were not Petersen products. They were just projects that I came up with in our made in the shop, but okay. And I had patterns, but I didn't try to sell the pattern. Here's a little grinder with a motor attached. It's pulley belt driven, and there was 2 shields on here, 2 guards, but he put a wire brush on one end. There are ball bearings in there, but that's what it looked like. Let me show you the back side of it. And you know what? I didn't really consider this one of my very good projects. Matter of fact, to me, it's a failure. But you can see that the shaft runs through there, and there's the switch and the pulley and the belt and all of that. But some of these projects required a motor, so that was always a problem, getting the kids to bring in motors. Here's a little woodworking vise that the kids made. That kid got an A on it. Got the name of the school on there, you can see that, and that was the students' initials. This was really pretty much a copy of a little Stanley vise. You might even recognize this, and it just clamped onto the bench. This pattern was mounted on a match plate. I remember that now. Long time ago. Brings back some good memories and some bad memories. This particular project is a jab saw made of aluminum. Holds a standard hacksaw blade. This blade is choked way up, but there's a little clamp for it there. And this project was unique in that I had a metal pattern for it, and it was shell molded. You know what shell molding is, with resin bonded sand? So We made hundreds of these showing the kids how to do shell molding, something I've never talked about in my videos. That was a tough pattern to make, believe me, so that a blade would slide in there without any external cores. Who cares? Okay, for many years before Petersen Product, well, many, 5 years or more, this is the C-clamp that we made in the shop, and I had several patterns and variations of that. And then eventually when I started Petersen Products, that is the pattern. You'll recognize that from the little brochure. I don't know why I put this hanging tab on there. That was kind of stupid. And I used special plaster called Tough Art. It was a fiber-filled plaster that had, in other words, it was a reinforced plaster because these patterns were delicate. However, I had mine mounted on match plates, I think 2 at a time, with many, many extra swivels because they would misdrill or lose the swivels or throw them at each other. So we made tons of this. I think this was item number 2. And what good is a aluminum C-clamp? I know what you're saying. And if you force these, they will consistently break right here. This is the weak spot. But these are great for woodworking. We made many of these disc sanders. It's a 10-inch disc. They had to bring a motor in, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 castings. The disc, the table, the rocker assembly here, and the base back here. So that used a lot of aluminum. It really was a pretty good project, and this table will tilt. You can see here it's more or less a V-block. And that's what it looks like underneath. This one looks like it's been jury-rigged with a piece of wood there, maybe to get the motor to the right height. I don't remember. This goes back a long ways. And this is obviously an arbor press. We made a lot of these. What good is an aluminum arbor press, you're saying? Well, they learned a lot, even if it wasn't all that functional. The platen here, you know, they had to make the platen. Again, this was a split pattern. They had to cut a gear and a rack. There were a lot of good operations in this, and some math involved too. Do you find this semi-interesting at all? Well, that's all of the finished projects that are known to exist. But let me tell you a little story, as it is my wont to do. Recently, the manager of the Subway store here 2 miles from me contacted me, and she said, "You had my husband in class. He has all these projects, including the bandsaw and the band sander. They're still in his shop. We are moving. Do you want them? I'm giving them away. We got to clear our garage." And that's just 3 or 4 months ago. And you know what I said? No, I do not want them or any of the memories. So I wish I had all those things. I'd be able to show them to you. I suppose they got scrapped. When I attend auctions from time to time, I see some of my projects. They're on the auction wagon. Next time I see them, I think I'll buy one if it's something I'm not able to show you right here. All right, that concludes this part of the video to show you what I did in the school shop with my own Petersen Products projects, and how I developed the projects over the years along with my brother. And I had samples of everything that I used in the photography that you'll see in the brochure. All of those I cut into multiple pieces and melted down because I was so sick of them. I wish I had some of them to show you. All of the rubber molds were thrown away and destroyed, and almost all of the paperwork. There were filing cabinets full of the paper, but I do have one of each of those to show you, which I am showing in this video. So, all right, thank you for watching this part, and I'm not done. The teacher would receive a sheet like this for every different pattern, showing how to run the sprues and the gates. Actually, there's two on this one. There's the motor base, and then this is the large drill press, but it's pretty much gated like the small one. And there's the band sander gating prints. And there was 10 blueprints like this. Some of the projects required more than one sheet, but here's the band sander, 1x42 belt, and all the dimensions, and always an isometric so that the kids could get a clue on what it should look like. And that idea I gleaned from the Casting Specialties CF Struck drawings, which I thought were very well made. And I remember ruining a whole summer out of my life when I was taking summer school and having to make these drawings. And that's what made me start to hate drawing. And I do very little of it because of that. Burnt me out like an old GE light bulb. And one of the things I'm contemplating in this video and probably the next one, let's say that I was going to start Petersen Products today. Now the amount of work was tremendous and I had to work every day at it. But now would I do it this way? Would I make 3D files that I would sell the files to teachers, and they could go onto their printer and their 3D printer and print out the patterns, the working patterns, rather durable, as a 3D print. There's the jaw. There's still some sand stuck in there. You can see where I used it. But there's a pattern. I would not have to sell these. I only sell the idea, and even the blueprints could go to them as a PDF file, so there would really be nothing to ship. It would all be over the internet. That's how I think I would do it, or attempt to do it. And so the next video is all about this. And I'll make some castings, and then there might be later videos where I actually go ahead and machine it. Although I've done so many vices, I don't know for sure whether or not I will. But, you know, there's not a finished, the aluminum castings, but not the finished drill press. That would have to be, of course, machined. But ultimately, this is what the teachers want, is the aluminum castings. But in order to get them, we have to go through all those other steps. So leave in the comments, you know, do you think that would have been a good idea to go this way rather than the messy and delicate plaster? The plaster patterns were very susceptible to damage in shipping, because, you know, they're so careful at the post office and UPS. They never throw anything. I'm being sarcastic, I'm sorry. But there it is. And of course they'd be better out of cast iron, but very few schools would have cast iron foundry. Very few, if any. Now there are very few that even have aluminum. Well, this wouldn't fly now anyway, because school shops have been largely dismantled, but let's say that they were still going. That's probably the route I would want to sell these, but I'm way too old to do anything like that anymore anyway. Well, that is the end of this video. What was Petersen Products? Just in case anybody cares, I now have it down for the ages. This is tubalcain saying so long for now.